done.
Hello, welcome to the Show Boys Newscast, bringing you all the news and no opinion. My name is Mike.
And I'm Pixel Nick.
Thank you for joining us. We got a lot to cover, so let's get right to it. First up on the docket, the Batman has been delayed back to 2022. With a sad heart, I have to update you that the Matt Reeves The Batman movie has been pushed back to March 4th, 2022. This is already after being originally scheduled to release in October of this year. This flick joins a host of other projects hit by the pandemic. With this delay, it's hopeful that we actually might see a complete full theatrical release. You know, who knows, maybe by 2022 HBO, Warner Brothers will cut the nonsense with the streaming platform and theatrical release at the same time. Who knows? Robert Pattinson will be helming the cowl here as the Dark Knight himself, and he is joined by Paul Dano as Edward Nashton, aka Edward Nygma / the Riddler. Colin Farrell is going to be playing the Penguin. Zoe Kravitz as Selena Kyle or Catwoman. Jeffrey Wright as Commissioner Gordon. Andy Serkis as Alfred. John Turturro as Carmine Falcone, the old crime boss, and Peter Sarsgaard as the Gotham District Attorney Gil Colson. They will also be joined by Jamie Lawson, Alex Ferns, and Max and Charlie Carver. Sticking with the DC news, Zack Snyder says Justice League was, quote, never meant to be just one movie. I think this was pretty obvious, but Snyder revealed in an interview with Total Film that Justice League was meant to be like Lord of the Rings and not a one-off, direct quote from Snyder himself. While both HBO and Zack have shot down the idea of a second and third part of the Justice League movie franchise, Snyder says his intention was to use Justice League as a primer for another 2 movies. With the Snyder Cut becoming a reality, though, it's not completely implausible that, maybe a second or third Justice League movie could be made. Who knows? The people hold the power in these instances, as we can see with the Snyder Cut. And yeah, I mean, are you excited about the Snyder Cut that comes out here in 10 days, I believe?
Thank you for reminding me how close it is, because I am excited for it, because as we've talked about, I do like the Zack Snyder take on all those heroes, so I'm all about that.
Yeah, I feel like you and I and Jordan are probably the only 3 people on the planet Earth that actually liked the Snyderverse.
I don't know how that can be completely true, because we just happen to all know each other and podcast together. I don't know. I think it's more of a thing than people give it credit for.
Yeah, people should give it more credit, because they aren't that terrible. Moving right along, though, Riot Games. We're putting that S in games now, Nick. It's not just Riot Game League of Legends. They're pumping out some other titles, but they've recently confirmed that they're developing an MMORPG. This is probably the most exciting piece of news that I've heard in a long time, revolving around Riot Games. And they confirmed last week via a very simple Twitter post that they are looking for some new developers to work on an MMO. This MMORPG will be set in the League of Legends universe, and they opened up a job recruitment page on the Riot website, and it's exciting to get a more lore-centric multiplayer game from Riot in the Runeterra world. It's very, very deep and rich in lore, as we've talked about on previous episodes. So I'm excited about that. But a quick note here, Riot's VP of IP and Entertainment, Greg Ghostcrawler Street, actually used to work for Blizzard on World of Warcraft during its peak of popularity. So it's not like Riot is going into this MMO landscape completely blind. They actually have a very experienced and successful person, leading the charge. So I'm hopeful.
I think it's the trick is going to lie in the art direction they go with. I think that'll be key for them to nail that, and then like some just general look and feel. And I think it'll come together quite nicely because they have everything else.
Yeah, for sure.
Continuing with some gaming related news, the writers of Deadpool are working with Sony/PlayStation Productions to turn the classic game property Twisted Metal into its own live action series based on the games. Described as an action comedy, falling in line with the writers behind Deadpool and Zombieland. I think that's a perfect fit, and that gives me high hopes for an older IP that could use some new life.
Yeah, I used to slam Twisted Metal all the time with my friend back at like the end of middle school, beginning of high school.
Great soundtracks.
Yeah, super fun game. Really, kind of wondering what this movie will actually be. Like, are we going like Mortal Kombat? Like, we're just doing like the vehicular tournament, basically the game as a movie, or like
it's going to be a live action series.
Oh, a series.
Yeah.
Ooh, even better, even more intriguing. Interested to see the storyline that they go with there. But sticking on the gaming train, the Dungeons and Dragons franchise is getting a blockbuster RPG video game. The developer Hidden Path confirmed via Twitter last week that they are working on a, quote, AAA third-person open-world fantasy RPG taking place in the Dungeons & Dragons franchise. The studio formerly worked on projects such as Counter-Strike Global Offensive or CSGO, and the HD edition of Age of Empires 2, and they had an original tower defense series called Defense Grid. It's kind of interesting that none of the aforementioned games are, high fantasy role-playing games, let alone open world games. So yeah, not sure how this will turn out, but I mean, hey, I love high fantasy and RPGs, so the more the merrier.
Yeah, it's a good blend of that's a good blend of games on their resume there. So it could bring something fresh and new, hopefully.
Yep. We will see. Time will tell. Moving on, we have a spicy rumor. It appears that Ryan Reynolds has moved his company off the Fox Studios lot. There's a rumor floating around out there that Ryan Reynolds is not happy with Disney and has since moved his company, Maximum Effort Production Company, off the Fox Studios lot. Seems Reynolds is tired of the Disney, quote, censorship, which may tie in with a rumor about Disney trying to push a PG-13 rating on the third Deadpool movie, which was said to be able to maintain its R rating when it was confirmed that Deadpool is going to be joining the MCU. This kind of makes me sad on the inside because the Deadpool movies are hilarious, and I was super excited when I heard that Deadpool would be joining the MCU, and then even more excited that it would, continue to keep that R rating and style and vibe to the movies. So I would hate for this to, throw a wrench in the Deadpool MCU gears, so to say. Sticking in the MCU, we have a release date for the Loki mini-series. The new Disney Plus MCU series Loki will hit the platform on June 11th after being delayed from May of 2021. So we had a couple months delay here. After the success of WandaVision and the anticipation of the Falcon and Winter Soldier series, this is probably the series out of the 3 initial MCU miniseries that I'm most excited for. This show will be following Loki and his encounter with the TVA, or the Time Variance Authority, due to his timeline jumping that we saw at the end of Avengers Endgame. So maybe a little time heist show. That's always fun.
I like the metaverse there with the Time Variance Authority.
Oh yeah, it goes deep.
Yeah, that's pretty cool element.
And Owen Wilson is going to be in this miniseries, and he's like an agent of the TVA, so that should be funny.
Very cool. Continuing on, Henry Cavill, or Cavill, as I like to call him, I don't know which is more true, known for his dominating roles of fictional characters, playing, from Superman to Sherlock Holmes, The Witcher to Theseus. The rumor mill has been churning away to pin down his next big role, this time making a jump from the DC EU, sorry Mike, over to the MCU. Rumor is Marvel is eyeing the ex-Superman to play Brian Braddock, aka Captain Britain. Captain Britain, blah, all jokes aside, is not merely a copy of Captain America, as he has a decent background and lore, with the root of his powers being given to him by Merlin, which I thought was interesting. I know nothing about all this. Uses interdimensional energies and powers from multiple universes. So it's a British Doctor Strange, but maybe a little different. But either way, I feel like as Marvel digs deeper into their catalog of superheroes, they do continue to be cool. And that one sounds pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Maybe introduce him on I think there's another Doctor Strange movie, or at least in an end credit somewhere relating to that, because that seems like his realm of expertise in the MCU.
Yeah.
Do you know anything about like Captain Britain or any of that? I've never heard of him.
Not particularly. I've heard of him. I'm not super familiar with Captain Britain, but there is a Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness, which is one of the most highly anticipated movies of Phase 4 coming out. A lot of speculation that obviously it's going to crack open the multiverse, hence the title Multiverse of Madness. So if they're going to introduce a character like that, I mean, you could, like you said, see it in an end credit scene leading up to Multiverse of Madness, or maybe he makes an appearance in Doctor Strange 2. You never know.
Right. 2 little sub notes here as I kind of like tie a couple things together. But speaking of Superman, sounds like J.J. Abrams is producing what is rumored to be a reboot of Superman.
Yes, I've heard this.
Interesting. I feel like we weren't done with the other one, but I think we are done with the other one.
Yeah, so, I kind of wish we weren't, because I really enjoyed the Man of Steel stuff.
Yeah. Oh well, maybe I feel like it might be like super retro and really maybe comic-y.
Yeah.
But also now relating to JJ, he is also collaborating with Stephen King on a horror anthology series. Definitely a popular trend these days, which I'm not going to complain about, because as you know, here at Show Boys, we like our anthology series, and we do like the horror ones.
Yes. And also, I mean, I don't know about you, but most of what J.J. Abrams has done, I tend to enjoy. So that's like a trifecta.
Yeah, I say that's fair.
Yeah, so I'll be looking forward to that. I can't wait for more details to come out about that, because like you said, anthology, you had me at anthology. We have yet another spicy rumor here. As we've talked about in a couple other prior newscasts, The Punisher may be returning and streaming on Hulu. So Mikey Sutton of Geekosity is claiming that John Bernthal will be reprising his role as Frank Castle, which we've talked about a lot before, who also is known as the Punisher, in the MCU on Hulu. So the rumor has it that the new MCU series would be titled Punisher War Journal, which is named off a couple comic runs from like I want to say late 70s, mid 90s, and then like 2007, 2008 range. Could be wrong. But due to the more mature content that is found in the Punisher, comics and the prior Netflix show, the reboot here would not be streamed on Disney Plus. Rather, it might find its home on Hulu. Of course, this will be, basically a reboot of the Netflix Marvel character, the Punisher, that John Bernthal played, appearing in Daredevil and then having his own solo series, Punisher, which was a huge success. The fans loved John's take on the Punisher, and it was, out of all of the Netflix Marvel shows, the Punisher was probably my favorite. So that has me real excited. I'm liking what is being added to the MCU here in Phase 4. Gets me all riled up. And lastly here, the last little bit of Marvel/MCU news here. There's an X-Men reboot in the works. So according to I love this name, dude, the Illuminati.
Decent.
It's good. Yeah. According to the Illuminati, the first post-Fox X-Men movie is currently being developed by the MCU mastermind himself, Kevin Feige, and has a working title called The Mutants. So fans have been speculating and anxiously awaiting the X-Men's arrival in the MCU ever since Disney acquired Fox and Kevin Feige announced the Fantastic Four project during the most recent Disney Investor Day. This Fantastic Four movie is being directed by John Watts, who directed Spider-Man Homecoming. So WandaVision has kind of teased, that the introduction of the mutants into the MCU. Kevin Feige announced Fantastic Four, at Disney Investor Day, and it's just been, the fans have just been salivating at the idea and inevitable introduction of the X-Men back into the MCU. So, Deadpool coming alongside that as well. So yeah, excited to see what happens there. And if they, like you were talking about Captain Britain, if they try to sneak a few X-Men or mutant characters in post-credit scenes or as like ancillary characters in some of these movies and shows that will be coming out here in Phase 4.
Yeah, and I definitely like what they can do these days as far as, the multiverses, the different timelines, kind of what they did in WandaVision. Very clever ways to make sensible transitions between things but still making changes and adapting with time. Because I think I'd rather see that than like entire sets of movies get kind of like wiped clean, if you will, or start over. Especially with like, I really like the light reboot of the X-Men, right? When they were younger and everything with First Class. So I'd like to see that same arc there continued.
Yeah, for sure. I get on board with that. Yeah.
So big rumor around some very, active news here in recent weeks.
What are you talking about? I haven't heard anything about one of these particular characters in the news at all lately.
Well, you're about to hear it right now. With the now very public and covered departure of Gina Carano from the Mandoverse, some prior assumptions about an upcoming series have fallen through based on this. Previously, based on hints in season 2 of The Mandalorian, it was assumed Gina's character, Cara Dune, would head the Rangers of the New Republic series with an ensemble of characters introduced on the sidelines of The Mandalorian. That, unless Cara Dune is otherwise recast, will not be the case. The current rumor floating about is that Hera Syndulla will head up and or replace Cara Dune in the series. This is actually more favorable in my opinion, as this would be using and expanding on a fan favorite character that is already well established from the animated series Rebels, and tie in very well with the Rebels story arc continuation through the Mandoverse. So personally, I'm very excited for this rumor to come full circle.
Yeah. Yeah. Hera is one of my favorite characters from Rebels, and Rebels is one of my favorite series or entries of the Star Wars universe. Though this might be a spicy take on my part, I'm sad to see Cara Dune be removed. I also had read somewhere that they have no intentions of recasting Cara Dune, so I think like Cara Dune is just done. So this would make the most sense, right? Hera is such a cool character, and also this would tie really well, like you were saying, into the Ahsoka series and what the speculated, overarching story arc of that series might be.
Well, yeah, and it would be, kind of sad that the only main character from Rebels to not get any kind of live action attention, because just about everyone else is.
Yeah. Rip Kanan.
Spoiler.
Yeah. But yeah, exciting news. That would make me so happy. But moving along, we're getting close. Got a couple more stories for you here. Next up, AMC has a new series on the way. This one actually I'm excited about. So Annie Murphy, who you might know from Schitt's Creek, she is starring in a nutty new series called Kevin Can F Himself on AMC. This series is created by Valerie Armstrong, and the show follows, quote, a woman who keeps playing a perfect housewife, then snaps and, quote, wants to kill her husband. So, I watched the trailer, and it is wild for sure.
Is Annie Murphy that wife?
Annie Murphy is playing the wife, yes.
Very nice.
Kevin is slated to arrive in a few months this summer. I think May or July or sometime around that. It includes Eric Peterson, Mary Hollis, and Bowden and Alex Bonifer alongside Annie Murphy. The trailer, like I said, is wild and gives off a real heavy, like, unreliable narrator vibes. So think like Mr. Robot. Of course, I haven't had a Mr. Robot reference in a while, but think that style of presentation and just off the wall point of view that you get from the main character. So I'm excited to see how this one turns out, because it's right up my alley, it sounds like. Next up, Amazon Studios is bringing another Tom Clancy story to life. Shocking. This actually looks pretty cool, though. I admittedly haven't seen any Tom Clancy stuff, but this trailer caught my attention. The movie Without Remorse, directed by Stefano Sollima, who did 000, is starring Michael B. Jordan, and they just released their first trailer. The movie follows Tom Clancy's U.S. Navy SEAL character, John Clark, who is played by Michael B. Jordan. For those of you unfamiliar with Tom Clancy's work, similar to myself, and the character John Clark, Clark is the CIA operative who works alongside Jack Ryan in the Clancy novels and films, which Jack Ryan also is an Amazon series starring the one and only Jim Halpert. And John Clark here was previously played by the likes of Willem Dafoe in the movie Clear and Present Danger, and Liv Schreiber in The Sum of All Fears. Without Remorse is set to release on April 30th and is also starring Jamie Bell, Jodie Turner-Smith, and Luke Mitchell.
Very nice. Very nice.
Yeah, take us home, Nick.
All right, last two bits here, but to keep this next one light, I'll just read the new premise behind Space Jam 2's new re-release plot, starring Bugs Bunny and LeBron James. Playing a heightened version of himself, James struggles to relate to Dom, who's much more interested in creating games rather than playing them. Dom would be his son, which I believe is played by his son. When Dom's tech skills draw the attention of a CGI humanoid named AIG Rhythm, Don Chattel, with father-son duo get sucked into a Warner 3000 Entertainment serververse, with the AI kidnapping Dom in the hopes of stealing some of the King's followers. In real life, he has about 80 million on Instagram. Chattel doesn't consider AIG a bad guy, what bad guy does, but rather an AI with a chip on his shoulder.
I think it's, I don't want to be that guy, but I think it's algorithm.
Oh yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. That sounds pretty wacky though. I think I'm on board for it.
Yeah, I mean, it would have to be wacky. Though I don't, though, yeah, I guess there's gonna, I thought they would have some mention of like the Looney Tunes in there, but guess that's like the.
Well, I think the what I also read is like they're gonna be like jumping through Warner Brothers properties when they go on this like serververse travel. So they might like pop into like a Looney Tunes movie or like another WB property or something. So sounds interesting. We'll see how that turns out. I mean, it's got a tall task to live up to. I mean, the first Space Jam was amazing.
Yeah, that's most of the interest in this one is I really like the first one. So,
yep. And the real question is, are we going to get another "I Believe I Can Fly" type, song
that's what I mean.
out of this movie?
That's what I mean. There's just so much
to
live up to. Unfortunately, LeBron didn't go and play baseball for a couple years to get that bit in there.
True.
All right, to finish it out, a little segment here I like to call Streaming Service Mayhem. And Mike loves all this kind of news. I promise you that. In the spirit of keeping up with the ever-changing landscape of blockbuster movie release trends, Paramount Pictures announced they will be releasing Mission Impossible 7, A Quiet Place Part 2, and Top Gun Maverick to their Paramount Plus streaming service just 45 days after their theatrical release. The CEO is quoted saying, "Audiences are changing in their habits, and we want to make sure that these films are available when they're still fresh after the full theatrical run." I can't disagree with that sentiment, as I tend to lose track of movies between their theatrical release and when they release for home video. So I can see that makes sense. And this is a little bit more middle ground with what others have been doing. So Paramount joins the ranks of Universal, who is releasing their mid-range to small movies to video on demand 17 days after release in theaters. And Warner Bros., being the most shocker, will be releasing all their 2021 movies direct to HBO Max for 31 days at the same time as their theatrical releases. So it's clear that Hollywood Titan studios, all those big ones that we've seen for the past 50 plus years, they're adhering to the trendier Netflix, Amazon, and Disney approaches to movie releases.
Yeah, so this, I can get behind this because they still have their limited theatrical run, right? And 45 days, that's a good amount of time, right? Yeah. I mean, that's typical. So I think, this could spawn into an entire episode, but real quick, because this is good. With like video rental stores dying, right? Like they just don't exist. You still find your random red boxes here and there, and of course you can like rent and buy movies digitally on Google and Apple, iTunes, etc., whatever. I think this is a great incentive to sign up for different streaming platforms. Like if you can get access to the movie as soon as it's done in theaters, like, and not having to wait the month or two after the theatrical run ends to pick it up like in stores or whatever. I could totally get behind that.
Yeah, because the whole 3 to 6 months lag time for it to come out on Blu-ray is just too much for me. Like I've forgotten about it for sure. And I definitely now don't go to the store enough to like check out the video section, be like, oh, what's on the new release section?
Right.
So yeah, the 45 days, that's still that's like right on the cusp of like, should I go see it at the Dollar Theater? Is it at the Dollar Theater?
Exactly. That's why I loved the Dollar Theater so much, is because you could go see it, and after it left Tinseltown, you could go see it at the Dollar Theater before it was in Redbox or Family Video or whatever, whatever video rental store you have in your area.
Yeah.
So like, even though I still prefer to watch a movie in the theater on the big screen with the huge, surround sound system and all that stuff, I can settle with watching a movie every once in a while at home, especially 45, right after it gets out of theaters. If I can turn on Paramount Plus and, watch Quiet Place Part 2, if I happen to miss it in those 45 days in theaters, that would be awesome.
I mean, arguably, the subscription fees for these services is kind of what you would spend at like the Dollar Theater.
Yeah.
Certainly, especially if they have enough content on there,
Mm-hmm.
makes it well worth it. So definitely.
Yeah, I mean, even if you're just seeing one movie a month,
yeah,
like it's, if you go, not at like a senior citizen time like I usually do, or hit it up on like discount Tuesdays, like if you go on a Friday or Saturday night, like $10, $50, $11 a ticket, and then like if you get concessions, or you're looking at like, $25, $30 to go see one movie, or you can sign up to Paramount Plus for like, even if it's on the high end, $15 a month.
Right. Yeah, and I definitely think each of these studios, and even Disney, and even Disney, I think they all kind of play to their audiences. So I think each style makes sense. Because HBO Max, like, to me, that one makes sense for them, because people who have HBO or who have had HBO, they are the people that's where they watch movies. That's where they watch the blockbuster movies, is when they come to HBO. So for them just to go ahead and do that for the first 31 days, I don't think they're really losing anything there. They're just gaining some very furthermore dedicated HBO subscribers. So
yeah, real quick before we end here, I will say, the last movie that I went to see with my wife on a date night, we went a couple weeks ago to theaters and saw The Little Things, which is on HBO. But I just wanted to say, I wanted to take a moment, stake my flag in the ground, and be a part of the solution to keep our local theaters running. So everyone, just go ahead, give me a pat on the back. I deserve it.
You should make a very somber, like, donate your money to these starving children in Africa kind of like pictures at the beginning of every episode from now on. It just begs people to go to the theaters and watch movies.
Yes, I can get behind that. I might work on that.
That's where I feel like that was going.
Yes. All right. That wraps up the newscast. What do we got here?
Yeah. Thank you for joining us. We hope you found this both entertaining and informative. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe everywhere you consume our content. Find all the places we publish our content on our link tree,
which is linktr.ee/showboyspodcast. Be sure to join our Discord server and become a member of the Showboys community to hang out with the Showboys staff and other listeners, as well as get some cool perks, such as being able to see all the articles we had to choose from for this episode of the newscast, but weren't able to squeeze into the episode. All article links covered in this episode, and those that were not, will be found in our Discord. So make sure you join up and stay connected with all things Showboys.
If you have anything you would like us to cover in more detail or include in the show in the future, we love hearing feedback, so please leave that. We're available. You can email us at showboyspodcast@gmail.com, or like Mike said, join us in our Showboys Discord, where you can just spam us all day with your ideas.
Yes, bring it on. Bring on the spam. All right. Until next time, have a good one.
Night.